let's talk about down valuations before we move on for the rest of the property. So yes, if you've got a deal sourcer that has done the GDV wrong, then you're going to get a down valuation. If you've done the GDV wrong, you're also going to get one, but it might not be the deal sourcer's fault before you go jumping the gun. I know people that have had a 10 grand down valuation because they had an electricity pylon within a certain radius. Now, if you're standing in the gardens of the property, you wouldn't know there's an electricity pylon there, but they are linked to causing cancer and whatnot. Nobody knows that. It is a bit of guesswork, but there was no other logical reason. So there are many reasons why you can get a down valuation, is the point. Getting a refinance valuation and getting a flip like valuation, i.e. to sell, is going to be slightly one-sided. And let me explain. So this is something my gut is telling me. You're going to sell your property, then you're basically losing the bank's money with you two dealing with each other. Because if you refinance the property, then the banks are going to have to give you another mortgage, which you're going to pay for potentially 30 years. So they might give you a slightly higher valuation because you're going to be paying higher interest rates. Think about it. It's logical, isn't it? It's in the bank's interest. But another thing that can affect the down valuation as far as the banks are concerned, the banks would put pressure on the valuer in certain economic times in order to not give out as many loans. You don't know what's going on behind the scenes. If they're under that kind of pressure, that could also be another reason to give down valuations. Look, if somebody's worked out the GDV correctly and you've bought a deal, for example, and you've checked their comparisons, which I have separate training for that, and you should always do if you buy from me or somebody else. Make sure you are doing the check-in yourself as well, because even if they've done it correctly, mistakes can be made. So even in that scenario, there are reasons why you could get a down valuation, and you've got to expect that in your property journey, it's going to happen at some point. Don't be scared of it. All right, you've left another 10 grand in the deal. You know what I mean? You're still hopefully doing good business. You've got the cash flow from the property. Get on with it. Let's go again. We're going to continue where we left off, and I'm going to explain some things that I did right for a change, okay? So, yeah, I did some things wrong, but I also made some very good decisions, and trust me, at this stage in the game, I make a lot more right decisions than I do badly. In fact, yeah, it's okay, yeah? So, as long as you learn by your mistakes, it's all good. Another thing is this loft room. That's what it looked like originally. Obviously, we took out this cupboard in the corner. And if you go back to the living room, I want to point this out quickly. So these two white cupboards in the corner, now we could have just ripped them out, but much like the doors, they were solid. Why rip them out, potentially damage the plasterboard, do different things which are going to cost you money, where you could just paint them, put on some black door handles, which is what we did. And look at that, it looks all right. Okay, the style isn't the same as the rest of it, but the valuer didn't care, it doesn't matter, right? So going back to the loft room, we did rip this one out because it was falling apart, and we turned it into this room, which I think you can agree looks pretty good. This can't be classed as an extra bedroom on paper because, like I said, the staircase doesn't meet planning regs, but it still is a livable space. Now, I wasn't sure if the valuer was going to care. So we got through the tour of the house. We came out in the master bedroom, and I was trying to be cheeky, they've heard it all before. One thing I will say, don't start giving your valuer comparisons. Oh, look, I found this comparison. They don't care, right? So just let them, just have nice conversation with them, be good to them, but don't wind them up, and that will wind them up. So we come out the door. I'm always trying to have a laugh with people anyway. Broke the ice and come out of the master bedroom and said what I said. This is the penthouse. And she went, oh. And as we walked up the stairs, she loved this bay window, kind of quite a bit outside here, and talks about, oh, my boyfriend really wants a bay window. I want a bay window. And then for the first time in that whole tour, she got out a laser measure. A laser measure is something you put against the wall. That's a sophisticated tape measure. And she stood right where this picture was at the back and done a laser measure of the room. And I thought, yes, mate. So she is going to class that in some way towards the valuation. I don't know. Hopefully I meet her again, and I'm going to ask her, if that opportunity arises, how much did you add to the value of this house? Now, obviously, If you just created like a crappy loft with no window and all that, then they're probably not going to care. But this looks like a livable space because it is. Now we put electric heater in up there. It's obviously got wired up there. It's my favourite room in the house. The big question, how do I negotiate and find cheap deals? So that is a big question.